All right, everyone. Welcome to today's session on referrals and relationships with Darien Cruz. As agents, I think we can all agree we love referrals. We love building them, talking to our people, getting referrals from our network, our clients, our database, but especially from other agents. After all, who doesn't love making a few connections and then sitting back and waiting for a referral check? It's one of the easiest ways we can add additional income to our business. And yet, so many of us don't make this an active part, an intentional part of our business. We wait for them to come to us, or we wait for a friend to ask us about someone in another state. And quite frankly, in doing so, we are leaving a lot of money on the table. So, what would it look like for us to treat those referrals with as much intention as we do all of our other lead generation strategies? And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And we have the best person to talk about it. Darien Cruz is not only an agent with us here at Choice, but he is someone who has been incredibly intentional about focusing on his referral business, so much so that he's not just doing it across state lines, but doing it internationally. And it has had a ton of results, not just in income, but in opportunities to the point where he is now the president of an entire referral network that's getting started here today. So today he's going to talk about his strategies, his advice, and his insights, and share all of that with us. Darian, thank you for being here today.
Awesome, guys. Thank you for having me. Thanks, Annie, for turning on your camera. If people are able to turn on the camera, that's always great. Don't feel like you have to, but we'll just silently judge you if you don't. That's all. Nothing major there. But yeah, this has been something that has definitely impacted my business, how I approach business, and the results that I've gotten from it have really been incredible. So this is what we're going to be going through today, relationship building and referral mastery. It's interesting because I used to teach a sort of similar class at a previous brokerage that was based around relationship building, but it was mainly with clients. And out of necessity, I actually had to work on building a network of agents. There was a point where I was considering, and I've still thought about potentially moving abroad. And essentially, I wanted a softer landing. And I thought the best way to do that would be to know as many agents in these other markets as possible. I realized how great it was to develop those relationships and just kept doing it around the world, essentially, and opened up lots of business opportunities internationally. To the point where, as of today, I'm actually co-owner of a small brokerage in London, which is something that I did not expect to happen. So it's interesting how things can play out. And I work on a team there as well. We just had our team meeting before this meeting. So it's a really interesting development, but it's something that there's a ton of benefit in. And it's about how we approach it, and how we approach it can really impact what the results are. So yeah, here we are, slide one. This is sort of just talking about what was important, what we're looking at doing. This is not going to be a 2 hour session. That's how it's designed. We're going to get through it much faster. I promise you, I wouldn't put you through that. But yeah, these are sort of the things that we're going to be discussing. What our philosophy is, mindset shift, an actual framework on getting this done, what that ecosystem is going to look like as you're developing it, and how you can convert those relationships into actual revenue, and how you can make sure you're the go-to person for all of these contacts. There's a few exercises we may not have time to get into, but we'll sort of brush over some of that. And I may have some additional information I can send out to anyone who wants it if they want to work through some of that in the future. But think about right now for yourself, the last deals that you've closed, whether they're things you closed recently, maybe some deals that you're currently working on. Where did those clients come from? Was it someone who saw a sign and called? Was it a paid lead? Was there some sort of human connection that led to that, whether it was in your personal network or another agent referral? Um, think about that. Think about those numbers because we're kind of going to dig into that a little bit. It's a broad range. For some of us, it may be less than others. But ideally, we want to see how we can get that number to have a very high human count because that's what really leads to repeat business and referrals. When there's humans involved in sending it over, it's a much warmer lead. Someone is saying, I vouch for this person, I trust this person. Those are the clients you want because they're already walking into that conversation with a very positive view of you. So it can be really helpful. Let's pop over to the third slide if we can. So let's look at this. So your relationship inventory is worth more than your listing inventory. What happens when you sell a listing? That house now belongs to someone else. The relationship belongs to you forever. If you nurture it, if you maintain it, and that relationship can lead to other listings. And it may come down to how we're viewing the relationship, right? So most agents will tend to spend their whole career thinking, oh, how do I get another client? How do I get another listing? Maybe even how do I get referrals if they're concentrating on referrals. But that keeps us in a posture of sort of a begging posture, right? Where we're always, give me something. Somebody give me something. Somebody help me out. Whereas if we can replace it with how do I become the obvious choice? How do I make sure I'm the person that they automatically want to go to? That's a huge mindset shift, right? That's not just using a script. Scripts are fine. They can teach us basically how to manage certain situations and objections, but they can get old, they can get stale. People can feel it a lot of times when it's overly scripted. But if you get that sort of positioning, that's really something that you can build a business on. So yeah, let's get into it. We'll talk about why most agents get it backwards and start with the difference between relationship building and transaction hunting, which is what some end up doing. Um, so here we are, part one. So let's start with the problem. As we talked about, most agents, and I don't just mean newer agents, this is everyone, they reach out to their network when they need something, right? When, for example, anyone wants to chime in, when do most agents actually start reaching out to the network? When do they start calling? We've all done those lead gen calls. When do we actually start doing it? Is it when things are going great?
When
Nope.
things are slow.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's it. It's when things are going slow, when we're struggling a little bit, that's when we start calling. And we're already approaching that relationship from a point of desperation, right? We don't have any listings in the pipeline. Maybe there's no buyers that are ready to move right now. So, time to dig into those clients, the old client list, time to start calling our sphere, time to start posting on Instagram, asking for referrals. People can notice that pattern, right? And it starts to feel transactional because it's transactional. And that's how they're going to view our relationship with them. And eventually, people might start or stop answering those calls. And it's not because they don't like us or because they don't want to talk to us, it's because they've correctly identified a trend. They see that we're only basically showing up in that relationship when we need something. And that's not the impression that we want to give. And it's probably not even accurate into how we actually feel, but there's a reason they think that. So, has anyone here ever felt that from someone else where you could tell they were only reaching out to you because they needed something? Share briefly any experience, whatever it might be, where you've had someone reach out to you and it's because they needed something. When does that happen? And you knew it. If you have an example, or how did that make you feel?
I mean, I have even a personal example. There was another mom that would reach out to me when she needed babysitting help, but she didn't call me to reciprocate or offer the other way. And so it started to feel very one way in that. So just as an example, outside of real estate.
Yeah. Someone wants you to watch their dogs every time they go away. And
Mhm.
honestly, I don't mind. I love watching dogs, so it's fine. But but for others, that could tire them out. I actually really enjoy it. But there are things like that. Always asking for favors. Are they going out of their way to ask you if you need anything? So these are the kind of things that we want to think. How are we presenting ourselves? How do people react when they see our name on the phone or our photo pop up? Is that a call they want to answer? So we felt that from someone else. We have to assume that whether it was intentional or not, others have actually felt that from us at some point too. And it's not really a criticism. It's just really how this industry has trained so many of us to operate over the years. But the best agents, the really elite ones, can flip that. Instead of looking at a relationship as what can I get out of this, they start to ask, how can I help or what can I create over the long term? Okay? That's a real that's a real plan. Like what can I build here for the next 5 years? You've got a time horizon now. It's not just a platitude. Relationships will develop. Those relationships can develop into opportunities. One real introduction or conversation today might just be a casual conversation, but it could lead to a listing next year, an investment opportunity, a referral partner, even a joint venture a few years from now. And look, we have to pay mortgage next year too. So there's no reason we can't plan ahead. We can sell a home today that comes from a relationship that we developed a year ago, 15 years ago. I'm helping some clients right now that I've literally known for 20 years, for 20 years. And we never had a discussion about real estate up until maybe 2 months ago. And they're selling their home and purchasing another home. So maintaining those relationships on any level is going to help you over time to build your business. If we can jump over to slide 4, which I believe is the next one, it's mindset table. Okay, so we can kind of walk through it a bit, but it's sort of the difference between when you're looking at an average agent versus an elite agent. If we can go, I think it's the next one actually. It might be the next one. Let me check and see if we're there. Nope. Sorry. Let me see. We are in part 1, slide 4. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that'll work. So we've seen what time we can invest, how that works for us. 1 hour can eventually lead to even 5 referrals over the next few years, up to 100, which would be insane. I haven't gotten 100 from anyone, but there are people that have. So let's strive for that. And obviously, 20 plus years, a strong partner relationship can compound. Obviously, I've had families where I've done multiple transactions within the same family, whether it's their son, their son's kids. I'm on grandkids now, and I haven't been in the business as long as a lot of you probably have. I started in real estate back in 2019, but those relationships that I had for years have become fruitful in this business as well over time. So it's important really to cultivate them. So when you're thinking about approaching your relationships, particularly with other agents, don't just think about how they can send you business. Obviously, that's going to be part of it. You're looking at agents who are referring business to North Carolina or whatever areas you're operating in. But think about who you can build a relationship and maybe approach it from a giving standpoint. Oh, what market are you in? You're in Tennessee, you're in Chicago, you're in Connecticut, New York, areas where we tend to have a lot of fluctuation between our states. Start reaching out to those agents. Hey, look, I'm just establishing relationships now. I actually don't have a referral at this moment, but I really want to build up this database so I know who I can trust in those markets. Who would you recommend to handle a commercial referral? Who would you recommend to handle new construction? They might say it's all them. That's fine. But I'd like to have some good relationships in place so I know who I can trust and who I can send my clients to. So you're approaching that relationship offering them business, or at the very least, the potential for future business. They're going to appreciate that. And then you build that trust. You then become an advisor for them here because no one else, honestly, probably is reaching out from North Carolina. Maybe just me. So I might have reached out, I might have beat you to them. But otherwise, go and reach out to them. Make those relationships, strengthen those relationships. You'd be amazed. Everybody has a grandma from North Carolina. It's unbelievable. Someone has some relative or some family member that's coming to work and or go to school. Their kid's going to go to school here. The parents want to move closer. All over the world, we have one of the biggest attractions in the world for education, which is NC State, Duke University, UNC. So many people come here to study. Even if they're studying abroad, they may come just to do their master's or to do a doctorate or a semester abroad. And people love it here. They come and they love it and they want to relocate here. People from here end up getting opportunities and going to other places as well. Keep those relationships. There's so much opportunity for business. We can go on to slide 5 if we see it there as well. So let's look at the 5-step relationship framework. That kind of what we just went through, which is getting curious, ask them questions, find out what they're thinking, what their business is like, really dig in and try to understand and show that you're curious about them, about their business. And then listen. If you can offer value, if you can offer some advice, that's fantastic. But you mainly want to earn that trust. So think of it as a relationship, not as a transaction. It's not about, hey, send me a client, I'll send you a client. It's, hey, I'd love to hop on a call. Maybe we can brainstorm on a few things. I'd like to see how you're approaching business in your market. Maybe there's some tools I can use, and vice versa. We can jump to the next one now. And this is how you can really get to the meat of the conversation with some of these agents. Ask questions that uncover opportunity. So, what are some of the questions there? If anybody wants to read off those, that'd be great. The get curious
What
is
kind of clients are you focused on this year?
yeah, exactly. What does that maybe open up a conversation to? What might we understand about their business when they answer that question? Think about how we'd answer it. What might that clue us in on?
Whether or not perhaps they're residential or commercial.
hmm Yep, exactly. Yeah. You might decide, you might see where their focus is. Maybe they do new construction. Maybe they do
Or if
luxury.
they're focusing on first-time home buyers too,
Perfect.
if that's
Yeah.
their, yeah.
You've got a young couple moving, just accepted a new job, first time home buyers. You know that's the person you want to send them to. And it's great. And it's different than just saying, I always get those messages, oh, how's business going? It's so vague. It's so vague. It's a throwaway question. It's like asking, how are you? I mean, I kind of care, but do I really? You know, when you ask, how's your mom? Oh yeah, I know your brother was sick. Is he doing okay now? That is such a different level of interest, of personal interest that you're showing. And it's like that with business. Hey, what's the days on market like over there? That's a real question that you're asking a real professional who has real knowledge about their market. It shows a level of respect, a level of intent, and that you actually want to have this conversation. It's not just adding another contact to your LinkedIn profile or hoping to get another follower on Instagram. You're valuing that relationship and they can feel it. The next one is, what does your ideal client look like? Kind of ties into the first one. It lets us know basically what they're focused on and how that works for our client base if we're referring out. And this one, I really like this one, but if I could make one perfect introduction for you, who would it be? Now you're saying, look, I don't know if I've got the right person for you, but what are you looking for? How can I help? How would you feel if someone asked you that question? How would you take that? Would that be more valuable? Definitely. Definitely. So when you're looking at these conversations, we're treating them like an interview. This is a real relationship that we want to build on. Your goal isn't to say, "Oh, I'm killing it. I'm just, I'm just the best agent on the planet." You might be, and you might be killing it, but that's not really the goal. It's not always about impressing them. You want to understand where they're coming from. You want to know their business, right? And you want to let them know that you have a network that you're building that you want them to be a part of. You're granting access to you. That's important. You're just as valuable as they are. The same way that you're looking at them as someone who could potentially be a partner going forward for referrals or for business, you're now opening up your network. Oh, hey, look, I've been making connections everywhere. Do you need someone in Florida? Well, where at? Let me know. I'll see if I can reach out. Maybe I can connect you with someone. You're providing value, and that's the best way to strengthen a relationship. It's not one-sided. It's not predatory in a way. You're really looking at helping. Um, so we would normally do an exercise here, but because of time, I don't think that we'll necessarily get up into it. And since we're not doing it in person, but I will describe to you what we would normally do. We would talk to essentially our partners here in the class and do a mock conversation, and we had everyone do it at the same time. Time is a little bit limited, but if two people want to do a little bit of a mock call or how that would go, I'm happy to listen to it or I'm happy to engage in one of those if anyone wants to be the other agent. I'd love for two of you to do it, but if you don't want to, I get it. Is anyone willing to play along? If not, I'll make Kate do it. All right, so let's say since no one's like just jumping forward to do it, I'll call Kate. So this, or I'll act like I'm messaging Kate. This is basically how I would generally handle it. So ring ring.
Hello, this is Kate.
Hi, Kate. This is Darien Cruz. I am actually a realtor in North Carolina. Followed your profile. I saw that you had a closing at 123 Elm Street. I was really impressed. Beautiful property, by the way. Uh, and I just wanted to see if that's typically the type of properties that you're selling. I think that one went for 1.2 million. Is that your typical listing range?
Ah, yeah, that was a gorgeous one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's not my typical, but I would love for it to be my typical. Definitely, my end result is to increase the price point. But typically, I'm working with kind of that move up buyer. So,
Great.
yeah, this is the area I typically serve, though. So I'm definitely helping families that have a current home and are looking to move on up.
Fantastic. So I'm based actually in the Raleigh area of North Carolina. Do you see much influx coming in? Because I have seen some clients moving from here to your market. Is that something that you're coming across?
Yeah, and vice versa. I live in Austin, and I mean, as you know from the listing that you saw, but yeah, there's a lot of people moving from Raleigh to Austin and vice versa. It's definitely an area that has a lot of inbound motion, I've noticed as well. You guys are on all the lists.
Yeah, and honestly, both of us. I always see us always in the top five on those list of top markets or fastest growing markets. Right now I don't have anyone specifically moving to the Austin area, but I love to have relationships that I can develop and kind of know what clients the other agents specialize in, so I know who to send their way or what they prefer. So I think you mentioned that you're looking at possibly moving up into sort of the more higher end luxury deals in the future, but you really have a good grasp on dealing with first time home buyers and move up buyers, sorry, as well. Um,
Exactly.
if I could refer a client to you at some point, is there someone who you would target as this is exactly the kind of client I want to work with?
Typically, they're new to the area. They've just gotten a job here, and so they have a timeline in mind. That's obviously always nice. But yeah, I would love that type of introduction.
Amazing. Well, look, I would love to send one to you. Referrals are a big part of my business, obviously sending them as well as receiving them. So obviously, if you have anyone that's coming towards the Raleigh area, I'm happy to help. And occasionally something that I'll do is set up group calls with other agents so we can see what's going on in different markets, see what approaches everyone's taking. I always feel like it helps us sort of sharpen our tools. If you'd be open to that, I'd love to, yeah, love to stay in contact and maybe invite you into one of those calls at some point.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, and you know how it goes. Typically, we get a referral, and then you have to panic and try to find someone. I'd love to be more proactive about it. Who's your ideal client? If I could return the
For me,
favor.
thanks for asking. Not everyone asks. But yeah, on my end, we're also doing quite a few move up buyers. That's where we're at. We're in a very similar place when it comes to my residential business here in North Carolina. I'm also working with move up buyers and trying to break in a little bit more into the luxury side. But I have a buyer's agent that I work with. We're fine with first time home buyers as well. So it's really painting with a bit of a broad brush. And just so you know, I have developed a pretty strong network. So if you're looking even for contacts in other states, I'm happy to make those introductions, whether it's in other states or even internationally. So keep me in mind. I'd be happy to help.
Oh, I would love that. If you'll just send me a text after this with your info, I'd love to save it, and I'd love to be on any of those calls that you mentioned. Thanks for reaching out today.
Perfect, perfect. I'll probably add you on the social profiles and we can stay in contact as well.
That sounds great. Thanks, Darian.
Thanks, Kate. Take care.
Likewise.
So, that's basically what I do. I literally follow the same thing that slide says. Um, it's been very helpful. Honestly, I've made calls like that from contacts that I've had on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever it may be, and it's actually led me to the place where now I am able to work abroad. It's literally been through doing just that. So it's a really interesting pathway. Um, and I've been able to send referrals out and receive referrals from other states, every year, at least a few. And I really want to make that a much bigger focus of my business because they are the best clients. They're just coming to you with a positive impression because someone that they trust said you can trust them. And when you start off a relationship on that level, it makes it so much easier. The only thing I would say that's superior to that are the relationships from your own personal sphere for people that you've known for a long time that trust you. Obviously, that's always number one. But this is so far and above any lead you could pay for, any Facebook ad. I mean, those are fine. We do what we do to try and get more business, but it, it's going to be so much more secure at this level. If we can go on to the next slide as well. So listen like a partner. We've got four buckets here. These are things that we want to identify. So most of us, I'm super guilty of this. Listen to respond. It's a terrible habit, but we can't just be listening and waiting for the opening to talk again, which is why I like teaching because I get to talk the whole time. It's great. But honestly, it's a terrible habit. We really have to train ourselves not to do that. It's not just waiting for the opening to say words. We really want to understand what they're saying and why they're saying it. So this is sort of like the ratio that you could use. And I'm once again terrible at enforcing this, but we always hear about the 80-20 rules that apply to pretty much everything. You can apply it to everything. In this case as well, when it's looking at the conversation, that initial outreach, try to get them speaking. Try to get them to express. Kate was great. She let me know what her business was like, what she's doing, what her goals are. Some people you have to draw it out a little bit. Others are just more open and willing to share. But that's what you want. So what are the things that we're identifying in these conversations? Here, pain. So when we say pain, what are we talking about? Anybody who wants to chime in?
Just what they're struggling with in their business or the challenges of their market.
Yeah. And pain is it's very much like a SWOT analysis in business, right? We have strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. They're all connected. So when you have their pain, what's frustrating them, you see where they're having trouble. What does that automatically turn into next? It turns to an opportunity. Any pain point that they have is an opportunity. And what's it an opportunity for? Growth. So if you're dealing with a problem and you figure out how to address that, well, now you've got an opportunity to grow because that's no longer a problem. That's an area of business you hadn't even been exploiting previously. So now you can grow it. Resources, that comes with developing relationships. You'll understand what tools they have available to them. Maybe they've got a great brokerage, maybe they've got a great sphere. Maybe they have a good real estate coach. You'll start developing these relationships and you'll have a better understanding. What are they missing? That's where you hopefully can come in. What do they need? Do you just need an introduction? It sounds like you've got all the tools in place. Maybe you just need a client. Maybe you just need, maybe you have the clients, but you need a mentor. Maybe you need a real estate coach that can help sort of refine your business. I know some people. I'm happy to make introductions. And now you've strengthened two relationships by doing that. The agent that you're helping, and also the agent you introduce them to, or the coach you introduce them to. Now you have two relationships that you're developing at the same time that both know you're the agent in Raleigh, you're the agent in Cary, you're the agent in Apex. You're staying top of mind, which is hugely important. So one of the things that it mentions there, their 80/20 rule, when you're doing that, when you're listening to them, people remember how you make them feel in any interaction. They don't really remember what you said. When we get off of this call today, you won't remember what I said. Hopefully, you'll see like, oh, that was useful, or maybe it wasn't. But either way, you're going to remember it. You're going to remember how you felt, right? Be like, that was a waste of time. You might feel like that, but you'll remember it. And same thing with any conversation that we've had. I have friends that I haven't talked to in probably years. I could jump on a call tomorrow, and it's like we just spoke. And it's not because I remember what they said last time. It's because I remember how I felt last time we spoke, what our last interaction was like, what that meant. That's super important. We can jump over to the next slide as well. So, how can we deliver value? So it says never leave a meeting wondering what now, always leave asking what's one thing that would genuinely help them. So this is so much about mindset. It's how are we approaching these relationships? And there's a lot of things that can provide value. What are some things that you would view? And there's some examples here, but if I were an agent from another market reaching out to you and connecting, how could I benefit you in your personal business, whether it's Annie, Stephanie, Cindy, whoever it may be? What could I offer you as an agent from an outside market that would be of value to you? It could be one of those things or something else. What do you need? If you can't think of anything, I'll tell you what I need.
I'm always looking for contractors, referral partners.
Great. Great, perfect. If I'm in another market, that might be hard for me to find, right? I may not know. But if I'm building my network, I probably know another agent who does know. And if I'm resourceful, I might even take a minute and just check some reviews real quick. Hey, look, I just found this one. Maybe this is someone that can be a benefit to you. I'll give you an example, literally. Our team, so the team that I work with in London, there's a heat wave happening there right now. And we had a renter that was moving from Italy for a short-term rental in prime central London, just spending a ton of money for a property that has no air conditioning because so many properties don't have air conditioning. And it's like 15,000 pounds a month, the property that they're renting. It's insane and still doesn't have air conditioning. But we can't have our client be miserable. So we had to figure out where can we get portable units in the next few hours. So the team was struggling. They were trying to figure it out. I'm like, I don't know. Wouldn't have a clue what to do. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get online and see what I can find. It took literally 2 or 3 minutes. It's about your resourcefulness. If you can just be resourceful, you don't really have to. I found out in life, you don't really have to know anything. You just have to know how to find things out. So I was able to go on, found the sources. We were able to source three portable AC units and get them delivered. So the client was happy. Everyone's happy. Everyone's good. I really should have been the last person to provide that information. But if you're willing to go a little bit above and beyond in these relationships, it's going to benefit you. And exactly what Brian said, we don't need to know the answers. We need to know how to find them. I don't know any of them. So that's good news for me. There's so many answers I don't know and so many questions that exist. But if we're able to find them and we know who to go to get them, whether it's Whether it's Brian, whether it's BrokerBot, right? We can use that. Whatever the source may be, if you're resourceful, there's literally nothing you can't do. I'm pretty sure, gun to our head, we could do brain surgery with a YouTube tutorial. I think we could make it happen. You can figure out how to. I've tiled a bathroom. It wasn't great, but there's tile in there, so it happened. You'd be amazed what you can accomplish. We can move on to the next one, I think.
Okay, I wanted to chime in real quick as
Yeah, yeah.
like something that I would find value in if
Please
I'm
do.
reaching out to people is
Mhm.
always knowing where this agent would recommend that my people stay if they come into town to go home shopping. Because that's a question I get all the time from friends visiting Raleigh. They'll be like, "Oh, where should we stay?" And just having a list of four go-to spots, like one that's a boutique hotel that's locally
Mhm.
owned, and what, just and one that's more central in North Hill, whatever it is. But having those are just, it's so niche, but it's an easy thing for them to rattle off, or if they don't know, to just send you later. So anyway, that was just my thought of a random question you could ask.
No, I love it. That's a great one, actually. I hadn't even thought about that one. That's a really good one. When you're going to a new market, you don't know where to stay. Is it centralized to the areas that they want to be looking in as well? Are they staying somewhere that's inconvenient to get in and out of? Yeah, what gives the best impression of the market that they're moving to? Certain areas that they might stay in versus others. Is this somewhere where as soon as they arrive, like, we're not moving here? That's really something to think about, where the hotels are located. Um, so yeah, this next one is about earning their trust. So we have to demonstrate trust over time. Um, People are really watching for a few things when we're developing relationships with them. Um, do you follow through? If you say you're going to do something, are you actually doing it? Are you responding if they reach out? Are you someone that's generally dependable as that relationship develops? And what about protecting reputation, not just your own, but theirs? If you're referring someone to them, are you kind of building them up before you make that introduction? You want to do that. You want to show that you're valuing them. Um, so just remember, trust. This is just a little chart to keep in mind, but trust equals consistency plus competence plus character. So if you can develop those three qualities, people are going to trust you, both your clients and your other agent relationships that you're developing. We on to the next one. The next one has to do with thinking like a connector. So a connector is really important. It's what I strive to be in my business. Eh, The highest value people in really any room, any area, aren't the smartest people in that room. They're usually the people that are actually the best connected. So every single conversation that you have should really trigger a question in your head. What do I, who do I know that should know this person? That's what you need to be thinking about. It's not what do I know that can impress them or what can they tell me. It's, ooh, who should I introduce them to? And that's it. That's the whole habit that we want to develop. Become known as the person who connects people, and you'll win regardless of what you're personally selling or what you're personally closing this month. When you're making those connections, you have instant value. And it's like literally to the point, like I said, I've been able to build a business abroad just because of the people I was able to connect. And honestly, when we talk about referral business, there are so many levels to that game where we think about referring out a buyer or a seller or a client to another agent. I built an entirely separate business on referring agents to agents internationally. So it's literally an entirely separate company. It's technically outside of brokerage, but it is if there's an agent selling a hotel in Rome, there are only so many people that can buy that property. And it's the same client as the guy that bought the hotel in New York, but they don't know each other. I have the benefit of knowing them. So they'll sign a contract with me, a non-circumvent NDA. I am essentially their agent, an agent for the agent. I connect the agent to the other agent. I never engage in a bit of negotiation on any of those deals, but I'll receive a 25% check when it's done. And so it's amazing what you can do as a connector. You may even get a shared referral fee if it makes sense. We're not going to be greedy about things, but sometimes it makes sense. So having these relationships, it's so much value. You don't have to be a practicing agent in every single market to actually have a footprint and income coming from every single market. You could be one of the biggest agents in Mogadishu and never visit. You can literally just make those connections and refer that business out, and everyone's happy because everyone's making money. You're now everybody's best friend. So think about that when we're approaching our relationships. Who do I know that should know this person? And if you're approaching it from that angle, you're providing value, you're earning trust, you're building a relationship, and it's just a matter of time before it's reciprocal. That's going to come back. So that's basically the major information that we had to go to. There is another part three, which is your relationship ecosystem. So we'll see how much time we have to get through. Kate, how are we doing on time? What did you allot for today? I don't know what you allotted.
I allocated an hour, so you've got plenty of
Oh,
time.
we're good. Okay, we're fine then. Great. Unless you're just really good.
I have a question that
Yeah.
I have a question that I wanted to touch on before you move into another area, and this may be
Mhm.
something that you're still planning to talk about.
Dig in.
Just keeping track and the follow-up of these relationships. So we're talking about a lot of people, not just your best friends, but expanding that network to the people who know the people you know and farther out. So how are you keeping track of who you've spoken to, how often you're reaching out to them? How do you remember that that brother was in the hospital and how is he doing now? What is your
Mhm.
sort of system for following
Yeah.
up?
I can tell you I am terrible at systems, but I can tell you in theory how it should be done.
Oh,
You can actually have a separate section for agents or those type of contacts in your CRM. So the same way you would with your clients that you're following up with, keep your notes in there, track your conversations. We talked about X. When you pull up that person's name, you know what the history was, and you can set essentially, when you want to have your follow-ups. You can put them in essentially like a drip campaign for agents, but a personal follow-up they don't want to just receive emails about all your listings, honestly. Agents don't care, they just delete them. But if you make a specific call, or hey, I've got this one particular property, if you happen to have anyone, it might make sense. I know you work with this client or that client. Those kind of things can make sense. But you want to do outreach the same way you would to your sphere. And then when you realize that some of them are a little bit more of a warm relationship, you start to prioritize them, and you may more frequently reach out to them. It may not always be about real estate as those relationships grow. It might just be a personal, hey, how are things going? Yeah, I hope you had a good weekend. If you're watching the World Cup, I know your team lost, whatever it is. And you can reach out about those things and keep those relationships going. So yeah, I would say CRM is probably the easiest thing to do. We're just as agents generally terrible about that. I don't know how you are with your CRM, but I'm really
well,
irresponsible.
I think, some people fall naturally into systems. Some people, it's not as natural of a fit. But for agents who are successful, you're going to do one of two things. Either you're using a system that works for you, you're outside of the system in a personal system that when I
Mhm.
talk to somebody, it triggers a memory in my head. Oh, I should connect this person to that
Mhm.
person. And it's a more organic system that's happening that way. If it's successful enough, you'll get business out of it and it'll work. If neither of those systems work for you, you probably don't have business, right? Because you're
Correct.
losing out on the relationships. So I guess my question is really like, what is working for you? It sounds like
Mhm.
you're using a more organic approach
I am.
and how you're remembering to follow up or reconnect with somebody that you haven't spoken with in a while.
I am. I guess you could consider this old school at this point, but I put things in my calendar. Like in my calendar, I just put a reminder in, call this person at this time, reach out to this person, and in the notes in the calendar appointment, what we talked about last time. That my calendar is essentially my CRM more than anything. It could get to the point where it makes sense to even hire someone to just maintain your CRM. I'm fine with that too, or set appointments on your calendar. That's something you can do actually you can do a virtual assistant on a very low budget, honestly. And you're dealing with other agents. There's really no conflict there on doing it. So yeah, that's something. Mine is much more organic in terms of reaching out. But you said something really interesting, where when a situation arises, you'll think, oh yeah, that's the person I should connect them with. So think about that. How did that person stay top of mind to you? Because they were successful at doing that. They must have done
Mm-hmm.
something that kept them top of mind. So that's what you want to do. You want to be the same person in their mind when they're having that conversation. So is it, were they top of your mind because they reached out to you, because they sent you a message, because they are, sending you info every now and then, whatever it is. If it worked for them, maybe start doing that. If you feel like,
Mhm.
oh, that was, yeah, I thought of them. You want to be thought of. So just keep that in mind as well. But for me, I use my calendar. That's what I do.
Mhm.
And as soon as I'm done with the conversation, I throw it in, and then I don't have to think about it again until it pops up on my calendar. And that's just the easiest way for me to function. So yeah, perfect. Now digging into the
Awesome.
ecosystem by referral. I'm sorry, is there another question? I thought I heard somebody say something. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, your relationship ecosystem by referral value. So you can tier these if you want to. It can seem, oh, I just realized it cut it off the last one, but the three are the main ones anyway. Highest volume. So, mortgage lenders, real estate attorneys, CPAs, these are people you want to have relationships with. Most of us have that already. They deal with the most clients. Almost all of them already have someone that's their go-to, and it's hard to become that person if they have them. Keep an eye out for when people go into lending initially, the newer lenders, the person that's on their team, that's the new person on their team. Same thing with with attorneys, they bring on a new partner, you should be having coffee with that person. When a new attorney joins Jackson Law or whatever it may be, or uh, you know, whoever you're using, reach out to them, develop a relationship. You want to be their go-to because the top people already have someone, honestly, and it's hard to get them. But yeah, your mortgage lenders, when you're sending them business, it should be reciprocal. At some point they should have someone apply who needs an agent, and you'd like to think that you could be one of the agents that would receive that call. Specifically, if you've developed a particular lane that you're having success in. So if you're looking at highest ticket, tier, that would be your financial advisors, private bankers, estate attorneys. If you're looking at breaking into luxury, those are people you want to be reaching out to. I've had the best success with that over LinkedIn. Um, Even with VC funds, reaching out to them as well because of what they do internationally. It made sense for me to have some of those relationships. So you can reach out to people who are managing VC funds. There's rules around how you can and can't capital raise in the US. So you don't want to get yourself in a position where you're trying to capital raise when you're not supposed to. But you can present them to opportunities. You can still refer them out to other opportunities, especially abroad. So that's interesting. There are fewer referrals out of those, but it tends to be higher net worth clients. And your high net worth clients are interesting because if they're doing, at an institutional level especially, they just continue buying property. It's not their homes that they're buying. They're just investing constantly in property. So that's a great relationship. If you get one or two of those, you can have consistent business coming from them. I don't have a lot of those, but now things are starting to come into place where, oh, I can see this is going to be an ongoing relationship, and that's awesome. So definitely do that. Deal flow, yeah, builders, developers, commercial brokers, all those relationships are important. Even builders, when I still do that, but especially new agents, at least once a week, go to a new construction community, introduce yourself, make a relationship. You'd be surprised. They don't always refer out business necessarily, but weirdly, I've actually sold their personal homes because they're not allowed to sell when they're on-site agents. Most of them are not allowed to actually practice brokerage outside. So I've sold homes of on-site agents that I just met from going and visiting the communities and developing those relationships. I actually sold two of those. So yeah, definitely do that. Visit new communities. We all have our social media. It gives you content. You can post about this new community. You'll feel like a local expert in that area. You'll know what's developing. They're selling all the amenities in those communities also. So sometimes going there lets you know, oh, they're building a new park down the street. I didn't even know that park was coming. You'll get information from them. Let them do some of the homework for you. They'll reach out when there's a new event coming, community events. It's just a really valuable relationship that we don't always value because they don't always value us. They value us when business is slow. They want to give us a better commission than when things are killing it, right? We know how that goes. We saw that during COVID, how that fluctuation can happen. But if we consistently show up for them, you'd be surprised. I'll get a call, hey, we're about to do 4% commission coming this month. And you'll get that call first. So it's great to keep those relationships going. So yeah, really important. Let's see. We're on which slide are we on there? What number are we on now? I want to make sure I'm seeing the right one.
We're on 12.
We're on 12. Perfect. Okay, great. Um, Let me just delete that real quick. Yeah. So tier 4, which you can't see right now, is visibility. Okay, so there are people that have a little bit more visibility, insurance professionals, relocation specialists, and influencers. I don't care about influencers, but some people do. But insurance professionals are actually pretty valuable. What is the benefit of that mainly? It's about volume. Because in America, everyone is required to have property insurance if you own a property. So they just have a larger database than a lot of these other referral partners would. Get in, send them business consistently, and let them know, hey, look, if you know anyone, feel free to reach out. Happy to help. That's a situation where you just ask for the business because everyone has to have property insurance. It is required in most situations, especially if you get someone who's a specialist in flood insurance where there's flood zones. Those are really great relationships to have. So a lot of people sleep on the insurance professionals, but I would really actually focus on those, particularly for move up buyers, first time home buyers, all of that. It's just it's a much more valuable relationship than people realize. I think we can move on to the next one too. Relationship revenue. So this is sort of like targets. The tier one that we talked about. When you start the relationship, set a goal. I'd like this to develop in something within 2 months. How many touches would it take to get to an actual transaction, to an actual referral? How many referrals would be given? How many received? It's got to go both ways. So this is sort of a table that you can use for that, but it's really going to change depending on the market you're in and the people that you're interacting with. So I wouldn't really stick to it, but it just gives you an idea of how that could look. We can move on to the next one. Sorry, I'm flying through some of these because of time, and I want to be able to talk about some other things in the last few minutes. This is just a referral flywheel. So this is basically everything that we've discussed, right? Your relationship, what it can lead to, which is trust, value, visibility. You want to stay top of mind. When you've achieved those, you've got a good chance of getting a referral, right? You have to build all of those things first. You might get it sooner, but you definitely should get one once you've built those steps to that point. And then once you have that referral, then you have to focus on making sure that referral has a great experience. One of the things that I do is keep the other agent in the loop throughout the process because they're going to feed that back to that client. Oh, yeah, he already let me know because they're going to go back and report on you. Oh, yeah, this is what's happening. Oh, I already know. Yeah, he reached out. He wanted to keep me posted. That says so much because I've had that happen the other way to me where I've sent out a referral and they've been so on top of it that I'm like, oh, this is great. They called me, I already knew what was happening. That is a great experience. And what does that lead to? Repeat referrals, which is what we all want. We want this to be a system. So we end up getting predictable income. We want to know that, oh, every year I can kind of bank on X amount of referrals coming in because of the relationships that I have. And those relationships get stronger. Once that happens, when their friend in their brokerage has someone moving to North Carolina, who are they going to recommend? It's going to be you. Now your network has grown. As your network grows, more opportunity. So it really is amazing. And you'd be amazed at some of the opportunities that come your way. You may get calls about properties that you wouldn't even normally have anything to do with. I'll get calls for a hotel in Beverly Hills. What would I know about selling a hotel? I don't know anything about selling a hotel in Beverly Hills. And I don't, but I know who does. And because of that, now I'm going to get 25% if that hotel sells. So that's exactly what you want to do. You want to be able to develop those relationships. Every relationship is an opportunity, but it can't be obvious that you're treating it that way. Treat it like a relationship, nurture it, let it grow, and then the opportunity will come organically in a way that's not you just looking for every single transaction that you can possibly find. You're feeding that relationship as well. So now that we only have a few minutes left, but just kind of wanted to open it up in case anyone had any questions or wanted to talk about, maybe how, if you want to know how I sort of target or identify relationships and how I develop those, we can get into that a little bit. Or if you have any other questions, just let me know what you're thinking.
That's one question I had. I know
Mhm.
Jessica Allen, I think she went off camera now, but she posted asking about referrals, and I just commented like my process was, anytime I hear of someone, then I go on Instagram or I go on Zillow and I make sure someone is closing deals and therefore is educated and kind of do some digging and then call them and
Mhm.
see if they answer. And, anyway, I kind of try to gather their experience by proxy and then reach out and see how responsive they are. But I'm curious, based on how much you've done, what your process is for finding that person And how proactive are you? Is this something that you schedule time to do each week, or is it something that now you kind of have your database? Those are my questions.
Yeah, so if you know me, I'm terrible about scheduling anything, but I spend a lot of time on it. Like I said, I was considering moving abroad, and that still could happen, but because of that, I really focused and sort of got obsessed over building this network of agents at a really high level, to the point where I was just spending so much time doing it. And I found that particularly with this type of business abroad, LinkedIn worked better. That was the best tool internationally, was definitely LinkedIn. Um, and for in the States, I'd say other social media platforms are a little bit better. It also gives you a little bit more of a vibe into what type of agent they are and how they present themselves, how they speak, how they would maybe interact with clients. You get a little bit more of a vibe with that through like maybe whether it's TikTok or Instagram or whatever it may be. So I would look at a particular city. I'll give you an example. So right now, I'm also head of US for a company called AgentWise, which is a private agent network, right? It's an invitation only agent network that started in the UK, but it's branching out into the US. So I'm literally doing the same thing for them that I did for myself personally. So what I'll do is I will go to a particular market, like let's say I'm looking at LA. I'll pull up LA and I might go to realtor.com and I'll look at recent closings. Okay, what were the biggest closings? Who were the agents that did them? And I've got their phone number, I've got their email, I've got their contact info. I can see what other transactions they've done. And then I will go to social media or LinkedIn or whatever other platform and I will pull their bio. So I'll look at their bio, look at their history. I'll see what I can gather from that. And I have a project in Claude, or you can do it in ChatGPT as well. I initially started doing it in ChatGPT and then I switched to Claude. And I will feed that bio in. I've already got my bio and my preferences and my interests put in there as well. And I have it search for common points. So, oh, this guy has been doing real estate for X amount of years. This is the type of clients that he works with. Ideally, if they have personal interest, oh, he likes music, he likes sports, like this, like that. Okay, is there anything that I have that's a common point? And it sounds a little stalkerish, I'll be honest with you, but it does allow me to know just how I would approach this person. Because I prefer to work with people that I like or can find common ground with. And I feel like I can find common ground with most people. But I'll be honest, if I call someone and it's not a pleasant call, I don't bother anymore. They're no longer in my database. It's just not worth it. I don't care how many homes they're selling. If they're unpleasant to deal with, don't deal with them. I like to enjoy work. So I will do that. I will look for commonality and I'll reach out to them and find a point where I can connect on them. And then I have the same kind of conversation I had with Kate earlier. I'll reach out or I'll send a message. Ideally try and schedule a call and I treat it like an exploratory call. Like, look, maybe there's an opportunity that I'm not even aware of. Is there a way that we can work together? Or can this relationship benefit both of us? And genuinely search for opportunity. How can we help? What are you looking for? What do you need? I don't know. Let me see what I can find over there. Are there any properties that you're particularly selling or, just look for opportunities to work together to help each other.
And then that contract that you mentioned, like the non-circumvent, is that something you had
Mhm.
an attorney draft up formally?
You should have an attorney drafted up. I drafted it myself and then I sent it to the attorney for review. So I did have an attorney review that, yeah. And I have multiple types of those. I have a company called Charles and Cross, which is separate. But I will have some for clients, specifically if I'm doing international property that I'm presenting them, because the rules are much different. Most other countries don't even have licensure. Some do, but most of them don't. It's kind of the Wild West out there. There is definitely less structure around buyer, and sometimes there's no buyer agency. A lot of countries don't even have buyer agency. And then even the listings are not often exclusive. You'd be shocked. You can just easily go and either steal another agent's listing right from under them, or you will have four companies that are essentially hired to sell one property. You could have multiple people to sell, and whoever sells it sells it. And they may negotiate more commission, less commission, depending on the market. And then they may or may not be offering a buyer side commission. It's really wild. We have a property right now, for example, in the countryside in the UK that we're selling. That it's us as a private office selling it, but they've also hired Savills, which is a very large company in the UK, to sell the same property. So it's basically whoever sells it first, and both of us have to keep it off market. So much more property is off market outside as well, and the rules around sharing are that they don't exist. So you can share it however you want to. The rules, yeah, it's like the drinking rules in the UK. Like when can you start drinking? I don't know, like 11, I guess. I don't know. I don't think there's an actual rule for that. So that's how they treat off-market property, um, which is why the network that I'm in, we developed a method for doing it privately that actually, thankfully, will also work in the US and be compliant with our regulations here. But it's just so unregulated abroad. You have to be really careful. Protect your interest, protect your clients as well on both sides. So having those agreements in place is just really useful.
All right, thank you. What questions do you guys have?
I don't know if there's anything in the chat either. Jessica, we'll definitely get on a call later. Jessica's asked if she could speak later today, and that's fine. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Awesome. Well, it
Yeah.
sounds like everyone must just be motivated to go pick up the phone and find some people to be in business with. Thank you guys so much for showing up today. Darian, thank you so much for your time. And it's
Yeah.
so obvious that this is not just a passion, but a major strength of yours. And it's obvious why you have such a network. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us and giving
Oh,
us
thank you.
another way that we can
Yeah.
build a business.
No, awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks for participating, everybody, too. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Darian.
This is awesome.
All right.
Have
Take
a
care.
wonderful day. Bye,
Bye-bye.
y'all.
Bye. Bye.